Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Suzanne Mex. I'm welcome to What Does It Take to Become FAIA. Today we're going to go through the very generally the process and objectives of the Fellows program, and then with some specifics about what the AIA New York chapter committee will be doing to help to support candidates and deadlines, especially if you're a member of our chapter, to meet in order to be considered for nomination by the chapter. We are going to have our members of our committee doing these presentations. I do ask, since we are in a meeting format, if you are not the current presenter for a section, if you would please keep yourself muted. After we've gone through the bulk of the presentation, we will open the floor for questions and answers together as a group, and then we will also disperse into breakout rooms where each room will have two of the members of our committee to chat with. So we hope that that will give you ample time to ask the questions that might come up. I will also immediately tell you that I will be sending this deck out to everybody who registered for the event. If you happen to be joining today and you hadn't registered but got the link from somebody else, please do send me an email so that I can be sure to send you the deck. We'll also post it to our chapter website, as well as the recording of the event. Just for your information, the recording will probably take a few days to be posted to the site, but will also be available for you to review or for others who may be helping you at a later point. So with that, I just want to go also over, I said I'm Suzanne. This is our committee members, all of whom were able to join us today. We have Barbara Spandorf, who's our chair, Lloyd Siegel, Peter Cavalucci, I can't see my screen, Anya Ramirez, Magali Regis, Rob Rogers, Gina Bokra, and Gregory Waugh. So this is our team today, and you'll hear from each of them at various points during the presentation. And for your information, here is a little bit about them and where they're affiliated. Today, we're going to start with an overview of the College of Fellows, then go a little bit more deeply into the different parts of a submission and the objects that are the category by which one submits, and how to be effective within those categories. We'll go over what the College of Fellows jury, how they actually look at the portfolios and submissions, and then what we as a local committee will need. I will be wrapping with some very specific logistics and resources, and then we'll hear from Gina Bokra as a recently elevated fellow about the process and her experiences. Again, we'll then go into Q&A and breakout groups. That's our approach for the day, and with that, I will turn it over to Barbara, who is our committee chair. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Suzanne, and welcome to everybody joining today. Hope everybody's nice and cozy and been enjoying the snow. So as Suzanne said, I'm this year's chair, and I also welcome you on behalf of the entire committee. Next. So the College of Fellows' purpose or mission is really to promote the profession of architecture um, um, to the greater world, but also within the profession itself. There's a great emphasis on mentoring, both at the national level and at the local level. The local chapter has a program for recently elevated fellows to mentor young architects. Also to be an ever-increasing service to society, to, as I said, advance the profession of architecture and the purposes or the mission of the AIA, and also to create a forum to share interests among fellows and be sort of a think tank, as it were. Next. The College of Fellows is the AIA's highest membership honor, and it recognizes individual architects for their work in one of six objects, for their significant contributions to the profession and society. We will go over what those six objects are later in the presentation, and it really is an honor and a recognition to architects who exemplify excellence in architecture and have provided significant achievements to the profession and to the society in general, and also have a national or international reach. And you'll hear more about the ripple effect, which is sort of the language that they like to refer to in terms of your broader reach outside of your office or your local area. Next. So just a very, very brief overview of the application process. And as the first line says, engage committee members as mentors. And really, we are all here for you. We are happy to help answer questions, to help you with your focus of your application, to help understand the requirements, but as the slide says, not with the specific copy editing. I think the second line is quite important, which is for you as the applicant to initiate your own self-reflective process. Absolutely use consultants, look to your sponsor, other mentors and colleagues, but the hard work of the application really has to be your own. And you really want to be telling the story of your the arc of your career and your contributions in your own voice. And it really has to be about your specific achievements and not necessarily the overall achievements of your firm. I mean, obviously there can be overlap there, but it really has to be your story. It's really about crafting a very compelling personal story. And with that, you need to always provide evidence of the claims that you're making, be it awards, speaking engagements, volunteering, mentoring, service to society. Obviously it depends on what object you're applying and what your specific story is. But whatever claims you're making really needs to be backed up to so the jury can assess. And as the last line says, recognize that results are not guaranteed. I mean, I would say, speaking on behalf of the committee, we don't always know why a certain person isn't elevated by the national committee. I mean, we genuinely are surprised sometimes. And we're always thrilled when people are. But that said, we use past years and feedback that people receive to help guide you in your application. And for the members of the committee who have gone through this, also our own experiences. Next. here's some statistics of our chapter. You can see the number of submissions. They range from a low of 22 to a high of 31, so they're generally about the same. You can see the number of fellows that were elevated. We had a low in 2023 and a much higher amount in 2025. And you can see also the percentages. The New York chapter always has a fairly high percentage of fellows that are elevated. And the last column is the number of total national fellows that are elevated, and you can see there's also a range there. There is no target that the national committee is looking for to elevate. And as the last line says, in 2026 we had 8 fellows who were elevated. Next. Just some more, little more data for you. You can see the bulk of people are applying in their first year, and then it goes down in subsequent years. And, this is for 2026. I wouldn't be necessarily discouraged by the third year that none were elevated. I mean, I'm sure it changes from year to year. Next. Here's just some additional statistics by gender. The graph on the right is actually encouraging for female applicants, because the number of percentage of women elevated is higher than the percentage of women who apply. And, just in general, I mean, we're always looking to hopefully create a little more parity between the number of women who apply and the number of men. But, everybody is welcome to apply and encouraged to do so. Next. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Good morning. I'm going to cover the first half of the submission requirements, and Lloyd Siegel will cover the second half, its parts, objectives, and effectiveness. Next. What is a submission? It tells a story about you, not your firm, colleagues, who you are, what you have accomplished, typically past 10 years, when it occurred, why it's significant.
I put the potato down to cool down.
Yeah. It should probably be cooled down.
I think we need some muted speakers. Why it's significant, how it benefited, was shared with profession. It tells a story and proves it. Presents the evidence that your achievements have affected or influenced the profession and the public on a broad scale, also known as ripple effect, which Barbara referred to, is very important to make this clear and documented of your contributions to the profession and community. The evidence may be provided in different ways: design awards, honors, publications, speaking engagements, personal recognition, leadership roles, or other evidence of influence. Next. What are the parts of a jury submission? Candidate details, contact information, work history, education, typed into the online platform. Section 1, sponsor letter, max 1 page, summary of achievements with capsule statement, maximum 1 page. The capsule statement is very important, as we'll go over. Section 2, accomplishments, usually 15 to 20 pages. Section 3, exhibits, up to 20 pages for 7 to 10 projects. Section 4, reference letters, 7 letters. Documentation, PDFs with image copyright, which is important, and release information uploaded to the online platform. Red items are submitted as a single PDF, referred to as the submission portfolio or submission upload. Next. What are the categories for submitting work? The story must fit within one of 6 categories. Objects, you can apply in only one. When submitting the final application, you will pick one object from a drop-down list. Identify one of the bolded words as a subcategory, which will add specificity about your accomplishments. Only include work that is most relevant to your category throughout, as noted later. Next. What are the objects? Object 1, design, urban design, and planning preservation. Object 2, practice management, practice technical advancement. Object 3, led the institute, led a related organization. Object 4, public service, government, industry organizations. Object 5, alternative career, service to the society, volunteer work with organizations not directly connected with the built environment. Object 6, education, research, literature. Chart shows percentage elevated in each category within the total pool elevated source 2024 fellowship elevation. You can see object 2 is popular. I know I submitted under that. Next. Object 1, design, urban design preservation, to promote the aesthetic, scientific, and practical efficiency of the profession. Exhibits must include a minimum of 5 built projects where you played a significant role in the design. Exhibits must provide evidence of peer recognition. Awards. Every exhibit should be awarded, including 2 to 3 national AIA awards. Articles about the work or the design strategy. Public engagements, that is presentations, juries, etc. Work will be of any size for any client of any scope for any type of design service. Note, jury does not judge the designs. Next. Object 1, AIA New York example, capsule statement example. Object 1, preservation. Best example from 2018. Pamela Jerome is an innovative leader in the application of theory and doctrine on the preservation of significant structures in the US and worldwide. Her award-winning projects, volunteer work, publications, and training have an international impact. Next. And this is an example, object 1. Exhibit example, the MLK Recreation and Aquatic Center. Next. Object 2, practice management, practice technical advancement, to advance the science and art of planning and building by advancing the standards of practice. Practice management includes firm management, administration, and project management. Documents how you going beyond the day-to-day have elevated your firm or are sharing your work and influence the profession. Practical technical advancement includes specific building types and technical expertise. Documents your achievements in a specialty practice. Exhibits must include a minimum of 5 completed built projects, may have technical typography specific awards, provide evidence of peer recognition, publications, articles, project or personal recognition, public engagements. Next. Object 2, AIA New York example, capsule statement example. Object 2, practice management, best example from 2024. In response to historical inequities, Nicole Holman Dennis intentionally manages an inclusive practice, nurturing and affirming the cultural identities of her staff while inspiring them with the knowledge to develop projects that benefit their communities. Next. There's an example of the Texas Christian University that backs up that statement. Next. Object 3, Led the Institute, led a related organization to coordinate the building industry and the profession of architecture. Evidence of peer recognition can include publications, articles, project or personal recognition, public engagements. Exhibits must include a minimum of one completed built project. Led Institute, exhibits must document extensive and diverse relevance of your leadership. Exhibits must provide quantifiable results. Lastly, led related organization. Exhibits must document an enduring legacy to the organization. Exhibits must document what you did to enhance or connect it to the profession. Next. Object 3, AIA New York example, capsule statement example. Object 3, led the Institute through exemplary leadership, service, and advocacy. Joe Aliotto empowers emerging young professionals, advances the profession through mentorship, and builds connections within the broader industry associations, resulting in greater growth, visibility, and effectiveness of the profession. Next. And this is an example of prints and drawings collection issued to the Library of Congress, architectural collection in Washington. Next. Thank you, Lloyd.
Thanks, Greg. I'll cover objects 4, 5, and 6 as we go forward. Next. Object 4 is public service, government, industry organizations to ensure the advancement of living standards of people through their improved environments. Exhibits must document how your work has advanced the standards of professional performance. Exhibits must include a minimum of one completed built project. Exhibits must present evidence of peer recognition. These can include publications, articles, project or personal recognition, public engagements. May show how your work affects policy. Next. Capsule summary example, public service object 4. Puri Sakia has demonstrated exemplary leadership by driving design excellence in civic architecture and championing innovative project delivery to enhance the built environment experience, benefiting millions in the New York region and in the world. Next. Example of a project sheet, explaining the project, focusing on the role and what the impact was of the project, and giving sufficient credit to the architect and personal responsibility. Next. Object 5, alternative career, service to society, volunteer work with organizations not directly connected with the built environment, to make the profession of ever-increasing service to society. The alternative career related to architecture illustrates outstanding achievements that support the architectural profession. Extensive service or volunteer work that transcends the customary architectural practice with wide-reaching impacts that can serve as a national model. Evidence of peer recognition varies, but includes a minimum of one completed built project. Service cannot be used to gain commissions, and volunteer work cannot be used as a marketing tool. Next. Capsule statement example, object 5, service to society. Sandra McKee pursues the architect's potential to create a better built environment. She combines this goal with practical, hands-on approaches, bringing positive change by leading, encouraging, and motivating her community to contribute in shaping their city. Next. Example of a project exhibit page. Again, synopsis of the project, focusing on the challenge, the role, and really the impact that she had on the profession. Next. Object 6, education, research, and literature, to advance the science and art of planning and building by advancing the standards of architectural education and training. Education may include teaching, research, administration, or writing, must have a lasting impact, be widely recognized, and provide inspiration to others in the field and in the profession. Research. Areas may include building codes and standards, specifications, new material applications, or inventions. Must include results of the research. Literature may include journalists and authors who focus on the built environment, must demonstrate the reach of the literature. Exhibits must include a minimum of one completed build project and include at least one example of the candidate's own work. Next. Capsule summary example, Object 6, research. An internationally recognized architect, author, and filmmaker, James Sanders, AIA, has interpreted and expanded appreciation of global cities through books, documentary films, and exhibitions, while enhancing the urban landscape through his own design projects. Next. Example of a project page. This is an exhibit for the Seaport Past and Future. Just general information, explanation of the project, and focusing on the impact and the service on the profession itself. Next. Candidates team. Your team should have many voices who can articulate and support your claims of achievement and recognition. The team includes you, your sponsor, reference letter writers, which has to include at least 5 AIA members. The other 2 can include clients, colleagues, and other professionals who can attest to your role in each exhibit, as well as a writer, editor, graphic designer, if you'd like. Next. The candidate sponsor. The sponsor must be an FAIA or AIA member in good standing, must provide a one-page letter. It is the first thing the jurors see. Must be very knowledgeable about your accomplishments and be able to speak directly and specifically about them. Must serve as a buffer between you and the references. That's a lot of work. I've done that before a couple of times. Should be involved in the submission process. Should be your biggest advocate and harshest critic. Should be from a different firm. May sponsor more than one candidate, but candidates should be in different categories. It's an example of the sponsor letter on the right. Next. 7 reference letter writers who support your statements of achievements, each of which support different aspects of your dossier. At least 5 of your reference letter writers, members of the following designations: AIA, FAIA, Honorary AIA, Honorary FAIA, Associate AIA, International Associate AIA. 2 can be non-members. These can be client, related field professional, elected official, allied professionals, or local honorary members are not considered members in this context. The group of letter writers must have geographic diversity, national or even international reach. Next. Peter. You're on mute.
Muted.
Thanks, Lloyd, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk about the mechanics of the fellow jury, the National Fellow Jury, and what the makeup of the jury is, how they vote, what they tend to focus on. And I just wanted to share that when I tell folks my story about how I achieved fellowship, I basically land on the statement that I had a moment of clarity. And that is, I was able to really kind of think about my career to that point and really kind of sum it up in that capsule statement, and then assemble my references and my projects all just supporting that main thesis of what my career was about. So I think that that was the key for me, and I would recommend people give time to give thought about their career up to the point of their submission, and really try to focus on what are the essential accomplishments that you've made. I was taken by Suzanne's lead-in slide. What does it take to become a fellow? And I think it's just like Carnegie Hall. It's practice, 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 but it's practice in a different sense. It's really career accomplishments, your outreach, your mentorship of others, and your visibility. And with the national jury, just like it was when you were back in school, it's somewhat subjective. And as one of our presenters said, sometimes we're surprised by people who didn't make it. It's not a hard and fast formula, but this group can really provide proven methods and strategies to increase your chance. So with that, next slide. So the jury, the national jury is made up of 7 jury members, and each one of those jurors has about 34 to 35 or so or thereabouts submissions that they need to read, review, and advocate for. And so the message there is, again, you need to make your submission as clear and as impactful as possible, because one of the jury members is going to be advocating on your behalf. And so you got to make your story easy to understand and make it as compelling as possible. Then during the month of January, those various candidates are divided up into the 7 groups, and they have a week-long jury in January. The jury member that looked at your portfolio will provide a summary during that jury. And then one caveat here is the jurors may not review candidates from their own area. So the message there is they try to make it as fair and dispassionate and as sort of blind as possible in terms of their review. Next slide. Again, on that theme of being fair and dispassionate, they do it alphabetical. So there's no hierarchy with the various submissions. They review the submissions simultaneously. So there's little chatter between the jurors in terms of what they think they've seen and what's on the horizon. The juror member that's going to be looking at your portfolio will try to focus on the key elements of the submission, the weaknesses as well as the strengths. And the juror that reviewed your portfolio will have about 10 minutes to make the case for you. And they need to convince the 6 other jury members, and in the voting, one of the jury members sits out. So therefore, again, you need that moment of clarity with your portfolio. The words and the images need to reinforce one another, so you need to be as clear and concise as you possibly can with your professional story. Next slide. So when the voting happens, there's only 6 jurors that will vote. So one of those jurors will sit out. The juror from the region or the firm will sit out. It takes 4 votes out of the 6, so a majority, simple 2/3, needs to vote in favor in order for you to be elevated. Unanimity is not required. And then there are instances where it's borderline 3 and 3, and so they'll set those portfolios and applicants aside and look at them at the end and just give them one more sort of look to judge the submission one way or the other. Next slide. So, what are some of the key elements? And you'll hear our team repeating the same old themes here. Again, it's just needs to be as clear and specific as you possibly can, both with your imagery, with your narrative, with your references. All of the materials are sort of your tools on the path to getting fellowship. And so all of them need to reinforce one another so that you can make as strong of a submission as possible. The whole composition, the craft of the submission, you need great graphics. You need to follow all the rules. So you don't distract anyone by different types of distracting graphics or typefaces. Just be straightforward and very clear and powerful. The images, you want them to be as impactful as you possibly can. A lot of people will postpone their fellowship because they're waiting for certain projects to have photography. That's not a bad idea. Just make sure your images are really strong. And then again, it all has to be a very consistent message throughout. The other aspect here is this leadership and impact. You'll hear this term ripple effect. We've already mentioned it. People want to understand, the jury wants to understand that you didn't only impress your firm or your local community, that your expertise and the things that make your career so noteworthy have been shared to a wider audience outside the state, throughout the nation, if possible, through lectures, through articles, whatever it is that just gets your message out. Try to avoid the boilerplate. A lot of the submissions are from people who are working with large firms. Try to resist the temptation to use marketing material or marketing language to describe your work. It has to be very personal. The more personal it is, the more powerful it will be. And you can, just like AI, you can kind of smell it when it's just marketing language. And so the jury is really looking for what are the specific things about the individual architect that makes their submission so powerful. Next slide. We talked a moment about the ripple effect in the various ways, articles, lectures, national serving on committees. For me, I was a member of an organization called New York New Visions, which led the redevelopment of the World Trade Center site. So that was 20 plus years ago. And that was really the first time in my career where I was in front of a lot of people and they got to know me. They got to know how I think, knew about my work, and that led to my being nominated. So those instances where you can get in front of people and get exposure are really important. And then the recognition, certainly awards, any kind of award, obviously AIA awards are important, but any type of design awards or community awards are very effective. And also, how long have you been active in the AIA? Have you participated in the AIA? That's also very important and helps to bolster your story. Next slide. The sharing of knowledge, again, this is sort of a little repetitive, but again, speaking opportunities at the AIA, ULI, other industry organizations, same with the professional journals and newspapers and magazines and blogs, just to get your word out, get your impact on the community, impact on the profession is in front of people. Also, peer recognition. It's always great to have third-party recognition in the form of awards or endorsements from others, both inside the profession as well as outside. I will say for my submission, I felt that I had a good mix where I had people that were in the AIA, fellows in the AIA, speaking on my behalf, but I also had clients. Important clients that spoke about the work that I did for them. And I felt that that was really impactful as well. So good to have third-party recognition for all of the great work that you do. And then last but not least, the mentoring and leadership in the community, really important, shows the more human side of your career path. And that's really important to the jury. Next slide. This is a little bit about how someone would display their reach across the world with the map, showing the dots of various conferences and events that they've attended and presented at. It's a very effective way to show that it wasn't just in your local chapter, but you had reach and impact beyond your local community, and that's really important. Next slide. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the various accomplishments in terms of specific positions, teaching. Teaching is really key. Not that you have to teach, but again, showing how you're taking your experience and your knowledge and passing it on to young architects is also a really big, compelling way to really reinforce your submission. So that's a key part of the whole thing. And it can be many different organizations, both within the design profession, as well as just within academics or within your community. Next slide. And then, of course, the awards. AIA awards are really important. It's an AIA organization, but certainly other organizations that offer awards for projects, both in terms of design as well as community impact, are also really key. So you have to sort of like try to think about all of those awards and all of those opportunities where you were giving some recognition and create a list so that it starts to add up to a very compelling story. Next slide. So with that, I'll pass it on to Magali.
Thank you, Peter. That was great. So what we expect to see in the April portfolio, it's basically preparing for your final portfolio. And the first thing you need, it's due April 3rd. So that gives you about 6 weeks to prepare and to start the process. And we will be giving you feedback on those 20 pages that we expect to see. So the deadline, as I say, is April 3rd. It starts with a cover letter, which is just very simple, who you are and your object choice. The object choice is very important. Sometimes we've received portfolios where the object is not clearly defined, and we are left to guess what the object could be, or sometimes someone presents material in one object and we feel like, well, that seems like it would be better in these other objects. So it's very important for you to see in the course of your career with which object will make you shine and go for that object. And it doesn't have to be design. Nobody knows after you're elevated which object you got elevated in. So choose what best represents you and choose what best represents your career. Once you have your object, then you can craft your capsule statement. Here it says 35 to 50 words, but the final capsule statement that you submit to the national jury has to be 35. So it needs to be really succinct and describe who you are and what you've achieved and what your work is about. So we read those capsule statements with a lot of attention and make sure that it's in sync with your sponsor letter, your reference letters, and the materials that you present to us. The accomplishment list in the initial or preliminary portfolio is also important. It lets us see exactly what you've done. It's a little bit like a resume. Usually it's bullet point. This is what I've achieved. These are the projects that I've accomplished. These are the conferences that I've been a speaker at, or articles that I've published, or books I've written. So basically, you give us that list. It's 3 pages long, and then follows by the exhibits. And these are your projects, and you describe. And the exhibits pretty much give us an idea of what you're going to present in the final portfolio. And then you give us a list of the reference writers. You don't have to have the letters submitted at that point, but it allows us to see where you're going with and how they might help craft or complete your story. And same for your sponsor. The sponsor is very important and also has to be in sync with the material that you present. So he or she has to know you well, and the material that you present, the sponsor has to speak to that in his letter. And you can also present support letters from other AIA members or testimonial, but it's not required. And the portfolio that we expect to see in April should not be more than, I think it says 21, but I think 22 pages in a single PDF with 10 megabytes maximum in size. Next. Next. All right, so you can see in these two sections that in April, it's basically half of what you'll end up submitting in October. And it shows the comparison. We need the cover letter from you. Your object is very important in April. The accomplishments list, the exhibits, just everything I've just talked about. And you can see that in October, it's much more dense. You will still need the sponsor letter, the reference letters, your capsule statement. At that point, your capsule statement may have changed. From April to October, you've had a chance to refine it and sometimes change it altogether. And as your portfolio gets completed and the projects that you choose to show, your capsule statement may, in fact, change. Next. Next. All right, so how do we review the portfolios? So there are 8 members in our committee plus Suzanne. We all meet usually in person, and Suzanne assigns portfolios to different members, and there's a primary reader and a secondary reader, but we're also encouraged to read all the portfolios so we can know the content and discuss all the other portfolios that we've received among the committee. And so at that point, we discuss the content, and we critique, and we eventually send feedback to each of the AIA members who seek FAIA membership, and then they go back and look at what they've submitted. They look at our critique, and then resubmit, and we look at it again. So don't feel like reading everything here, but so all the portfolios are sent to the whole committee. So if there's 31 people here, maybe 25 people will submit portfolios, and we'll review them, and then we'll meet a few times during the year to discuss the work. Committee members review the submissions assigned to them and can opt to comment on others. Committee meets to discuss the submissions. I've already discussed that. The primary reviewer provides initial comments and recommendations, and others comment. Comments and recommendations are recorded and compiled. Decisions are made to nominate or to defer until the following year. So sometimes we receive portfolios and we feel that the candidate is not ready for a variety of reasons, and we recommend that maybe they need more speaking engagements or more conferences, or write more articles, depending on their objects, of course. And then we'll recommend that they gather more material and then resubmit, the following year or at a later time. Comments are sent to candidates to help with portfolio development for the national jury or to strengthen the portfolio for future chapter consideration. Next. Okay, so in summary, yes, this is a process of introspection. It's about your career and your professional accomplishments and how to put it all together in 40 pages. It's a fulfilling and positive experience, though extremely rigorous. It takes a long time, and you need to put in the time and not just assign a staff member to do the work for you. And we're here to provide support. And again, as Peter and others said, we're not the jury. We can't guarantee the results. And sometimes we're pretty surprised when someone we've been working with has not been elevated. It doesn't mean it's final. They can always resubmit, but at least the jury does provide feedback. And look for innovative ways to convey your accomplishments, whether that's graphically or the way you choose to speak about your career. And yes, it is very important not to reuse marketing materials because you can just see through it when it doesn't come from you and it's really about your story. So when people reuse what's on their website, that's not so good. And then, yes, choose a sponsor who will make the time to support you and look at your material and critique as you work on your portfolio, who will critique what you've written to help you improve the text or the images that are appropriate for the projects you choose. And if you're not nominated in the end, we're always there to provide feedback and let you know what was missing or maybe what the jury wants to see the following time. I mean, as we said before, it's very sometimes surprising when people don't get elevated and we feel that they have the strength, the work to speak for it. And you can always reapply. And people do reapply and they do eventually get elevated. Next. Oh, I think that's it for me. Suzanne?
Sorry. Thank you so much, Magali, and everybody for your for all that you've shared so far. I'm going to talk a little bit about the different logistics and next steps. I want to make sure everyone can hear me properly because I'm not really seeing my box light up. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So one of the most important things is that you don't want to undertake all of this work and preparation if for some reason you are not yet eligible to become an FAIA. So please, as you're starting, be sure that you meet the baseline criteria. We've tried to identify folks, but ultimately the responsibility is on you to know that you've been a member as an architect level member for 10 or more years of the AIA, that you are currently an active member, your dues have been paid, and by the time that you submit to the jury that you have the appropriate continuing education credits for that year, that you're not under audit and you are on track to complete the 18 learning units with 12 HSW for that year. Similarly, your sponsor and any members, letters, reference writers will also, when you get to that later stage, need to be active members and have their continuing education completed as well. Those are things that you don't need to worry about right now, but you should be aware of as you enter the process. In addition, members who are applying for this honor, as well as others in the Institute, are required to attest that they uphold the standards of and ethics of the AIA, and that includes an intern declaration saying that you will not, you do not employ unpaid interns. So the question of being employed if you're not being paid is an interesting one. So please do be aware of those things and make sure that you are eligible. Once you have determined that you feel you are and you want to go forward, then you want to follow all the advice about how to make the best possible portfolio submission, which is a request basically to be considered for nomination by the AIA New York chapter. I know there are a couple of people here who are members of other chapters in the state or the region. You are welcome to submit a portfolio to our committee for review and comments, but ultimately you would either need to be nominated by your own chapter, so you want to talk to the leadership of your chapter, as well as, or you can proceed with a nomination that is done by petition, by getting either 5 FAIA or up to 10 other types of members to sign a petition to be nominated. So there are 2 paths to nomination: your chapter nomination or a petition nomination. But we're encouraging you to consider using the chapter nomination pathway, because we will then also be in conversation with you about the materials you're preparing and provide feedback. The deadline for submitting that portfolio is April 1st, and we'll then be doing the review process over April, and by early May let you know what the outcome is. Assuming that one is nominated, we will have a workshop in late May where we will go a little bit more deeply into the specifics of preparing for the national jury as opposed to our local committee. And we will ask that in early August, you send us a draft if you are planning to submit to the national jury in the October of this year. If individuals are nominated, you can actually delay your submission to the national jury by up to 2 years. But basically, this is a timeline should you choose to go forward straight through over the course of 26 and 27. The submission deadline has not yet been announced, but it's usually around the 7th, 8th of October, with then the national jury reviewing between October and their January meeting, and they notify people in February about the decisions. Then our chapter in March of each year celebrates the new fellows, and we do have that event coming up on March 17th. If you'd like to meet some of our most recently elevated individuals, please do join us on the 17th. This next slide is something that I will encourage you to sort of look at more closely once you get the deck. But the important thing is to let you know that there are a number of resources available on the National AIA website about the fellowship program. And this is the link. You can also get to it from the national site by going through awards and College of Fellows. In this site, they talk about, there are many examples of successful applications, the list of who has been elevated recently, so that you might, if there's somebody you know who you think works in a similar way, you might want to ask to look at their portfolio. or their submission. It might help guide you as you craft your own. But also the details of the nominating criteria, eligibility, and so forth are all laid out on this national website page. So I encourage you to find this page, bookmark it, and go back to it again and again. It's not currently updated for the next cycle. It's showing the information about the 2026 submissions, but the information about the submission changes very little from year to year. You can use what's there now as a guide for preparing until, and then you just want to revisit it after June when they release the 2027 submission timeline. And assuming that you submit a portfolio to our chapter and we review and provide you feedback, their next steps are to look at finding a sponsor who will work with you through the process. If you have one already, that's great, but it's fine to not have that fully in place until after nomination is completed. You're going to be collecting materials. This is something you can start on even before you are nominated, but definitely after you've been nominated, you want to be looking at your career, particularly the last 10 years of what you have achieved and where you've spoken, what awards you've won, what publications have been made. Then you're going to start to write and flesh out the information you're giving us for the portfolio. You might think of as sort of an outline for a large paper that's going to have greater depths of detail in the final submission. And you're going to rewrite and circle around that information and then design it and to present it in a way that is concise. Then you're going to submit a draft to our chapter. That's the August deadline. We will again provide comments and feedback about how clear we feel the message is, and if there are things that we think might strengthen how you are presenting the information. We'll also provide feedback on and comments on that. You can incorporate those changes and then submit to the College of Fellows jury. If you are nominated this year and don't feel you have quite enough time to do all of these steps between now and October, you can take up to 2 more years for 27 and 28 to submit to that October deadline. If you do not submit during that window, we just ask that you come back with a portfolio to be renominated to go forward again. If you have questions about this, please do ask me along the way or today later. This key resources page I also think is really more for when you have the deck in front of you. These will be live links to take you to the various resources that I've been mentioning. In addition to the things on the national website, we have on the local website a directory of folks who have been elevated in New York from the New York chapter over the last number of decades. And you can ask for a portfolio from anyone at any time through the National Archivist. But probably the most recent portfolios, I would say from 2020, 2022 until now, are going to provide you the best guidance on what jury may be looking for at this point. And that is pretty much all of our detail for today. If you are submitted and elevated, this is sort of what our local celebration looks like. And at this point, I'm going to ask for any questions. Oh, wait, no, not yet. Sorry. Dina, would you like to say a little bit about the process from your perspective?
Sure. Thanks, Suzanne. And nice to see everybody that's here. I hope you're here because in your head, you're ready for this. You're able to commit to it. You really have to commit to the process of going through this fellow application. It is a lot of work. That's no secret. I'm sure that you've heard it from other fellows. So really committing to the process that the chapter sponsors is very, very helpful. And I know I've said this to Suzanne and to other committee members in the past. I wouldn't have pursued my application if it weren't for the support that I was able to get from the chapter. I happen to work in a non-traditional role for the city of New York. And my department didn't have a marketing team to back me up. I had to do a lot of the work myself. But one piece of advice is build a team around you. Get help from your colleagues that are really familiar with your career, with your accomplishments over time. Get support on graphics if you haven't gone down a traditional career path as an architect. That's really important. Find a trusted editor so that you can tell your story. And as Peter emphasized multiple times, it needs to be really clear, really concise, very compelling. So it's definitely the time to set aside any reservations you have about tooting your own horn. You really need to dial up your ego and tell the best story that you can tell. Leverage the other fellows in our chapter, and as Suzanne just shared, those resources on the national website are really, really helpful. Look at the other applications that have been approved over recent years. Your capsule statement is really important. And just so you know, as you're working on that 35 to 50 words that you're trying to describe your entire career and all your accomplishments and achievements, that capsule statement walks across the stage with you. So it follows you through this whole process. You're going to write it a dozen times, and just spend time and be thoughtful and really think about how to best convey your accomplishments in that very short statement. It was really helpful for me to pretend I was writing about someone else, and do your best to sell that story. As Suzanne said, start gathering your materials now. If you're ready to commit to this and go through it, you might not have everything assembled in one place over the time and the arc of your career. It's easy to lose track of things. So start to look for those, pieces of evidence of the impact that you've had. And make sure that you're really focusing again on your contributions, which is why you can't rely just on the marketing material for your firm. You really want to zero in on the things that you specifically contributed to project work or to different efforts throughout your career. One piece of advice that I haven't heard from other resources is, as you are thinking about who your letter writers are going to be, also be thinking about what specific piece of your story those letter writers can tell. It really is helpful for them to give them guidance on, hey, when we worked on this project together and we came up with this really great solution to a design problem, have them zero in on the different aspects of your career so that you don't have 7 letters that all say the same thing. You want to have support for the different contributions throughout your career. It really is helpful for them, and I've written letters for others over the years, to know what kind of emphasis you're looking for them to provide. And giving them that guidance is helpful for them in focusing their letter. And when it comes down to a sponsor, find the person who knows you best, really cares about you, and is really going to commit to this process with you as well. My sponsor was the one who said to me, Gina, it's time for you to do this. And I had been putting it off. And so it was really through the nudging of my sponsor, the support of the chapter, that I committed and finally went through the work. And, pace yourself with the work, really reflect, leverage the support from the chapter, from this committee, and that will really, help you get to the submission date in October. Thanks, Suzanne.
Great, thank you very much, Gina. So with that, we will now transition to our Q&A section. I just dropped in the chat that I would encourage you all to use the raise hand function or physically raise your hand so that I can see if you have a question. If you want to direct a question to a specific member of the committee, feel free to do that. And actually, before we maybe open the floor to so anyone who has questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'm actually also going to stop sharing my screen so that perhaps we can all see each other, and that may make it easier for us to go through this Q&A process. Does anyone have an opening question that they would like to ask? And you all feel that you've gotten everything. Yes, John.
Hi, thank you. This was really informative. I appreciate your time and all of that information. It's a lot. In years past, Suzanne, I received letters from you inviting me to submit, and I didn't. And this year I'd like to submit, but I didn't receive a letter. So I'm curious, do I have to wait for that to submit, or can I go on goodwill of older letters?
Yes, no, please do go ahead. I'm afraid that letter fell victim to my falling ill and then my father falling ill. So they're going out this week. So I apologize that they've been a little bit delayed, but you should be receiving a note this week. And either way, if you believe you are eligible, feel free to go ahead and start preparing for that April 1st deadline. Rob, I'd like to invite you as well, as one of the members of the committee who didn't have a formal presentation. Is there anything you'd like to add to what you heard today?
Yeah, maybe a couple of things. A lot of times the reference letters, they really need to be broad geographically. We've talked about it a bit. So it's not your cadre and circle of New York City buddies and friends. But it shows that you've got impact across the nation. So it could be from educators, from clients, from design professionals, peers, colleagues, people that you've worked with. And I think that diversity, because a lot of times we've seen in applications in the past, somebody submitting on education, pardon me, and all the letters are from 3 schools. And it's like, you need that diversity and breadth in those reference letters. And I think that was one thing I didn't hear previously as clearly.
Yeah, I would actually add that a lot of times we discourage people from your own firm from writing the reference letters. It always looks like there's a little, I mean, not to say that it isn't a genuine reference letter, but there is it seems a little like there's some vested interest in your firm having you become FAIA. So the more diversity in terms of, I think Peter addressed it in terms of roles of people, clients, you know, in terms of role diversity as well as geographic diversity. I think all of that's really important.
And I guess I would add to that in thinking about the difference between the current portfolio submission requirements and then the later jury submission. We are not looking to have actual letters from reference writers at this point, but it is very helpful for us if you have some thoughts and ideas about who those folks would be, to go ahead and add that in just as a brief list at the end of your portfolio, because that gives us the opportunity to provide a little guidance around that as well. I'd like to also maybe invite Mike Hellenhausen, who's a member of our chapter very recently, but has been on the Fellows Committee in Texas and in Dallas, I believe. And if you have any thoughts that you would add that might be from your experiences as well.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, good morning. I appreciate the welcome. I was elevated through the Dallas, Texas chapter, class of 22. I think overall it just turned out to be a very large mountain of effort to get it done, and just prepare yourself for that. The workshop in Dallas actually gets going in March, and sort of sets deadlines all the way through the year until the October deadline. So it's a little bit longer run, but I think what I'm hearing here is this portfolio gives you that head start. So anyway, I'm available as a resource sounding board. Just thank you for welcoming me.
Are there any other chapter questions while we are all together? Anyone would like to ask? If not, I would be happy to open breakout rooms. I've assigned 2 members from each of our committees to a particular room. The attendees who are here, you can, I believe, pick your own room after I open the room. Actually, wait. And I would encourage you to take the opportunity to speak directly with members of our chapter. And again, I will send out, we'll have those rooms open for, I guess, about 15 to 20 minutes. And if you, but if you need to step off, we understand that as well. With that,
Suzanne, do we return to this? Do we leave the room and come back here afterwards, or is the session over from the room?
Yeah, I would say if you don't have any reason to come back, I'll stay here in the not breakout room. So if people have questions for me specifically, you can come back here. Otherwise, please feel free to step off if you need to from the rooms. And if you are one of the committee members and your room becomes empty, you can also feel free to step off. And thank you, everybody. And we will send out the PowerPoint and deck after I make a few edits, which I noticed some errors as we went through the slides today.
Thanks for your great work, Suzanne.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.